Well, thank you all for being on this call or being on this video. I can't see any of you, but I know you're out there, and we just have to get used to this new way of life for a little bit till we can all get back to normal. But first of all, before I start, I really want to tell everyone, ask everyone, I hope that your family, your friends, everyone you know and love is safe and healthy. These are uncertain times. My heart goes out to you if you have know anyone that are suffering, and of course to all of our folks on the front line, from our grocery stores to our hospitals, our first responders, police, firefighters, everyone in between, uh, working hard to be sure that we have the services and care that we need as we navigate through this. But today we're here because I want to provide you an update on what I'm doing along with the rest of the federal delegation to combat COVID-19, try to uh, put our money into healthcare, into resources, into our economy, all the things that we're trying to do. Because during these difficult times, our state's economy, our small business community, our hardworking families, people we know and love, we're all suffering across the board. And in Congress, my colleagues and I, we are coming together to try to help everyone through this small time, particularly our small businesses. Most people know that, or maybe you don't, but 99.9% of business in Nevada is small business. And so it's important that in the CARES Act, we pass that Paycheck Protection Program. We've enhanced it in the package that was just passed yesterday. Since my last update, I've also partnered with local chambers of commerce. We're trying to bring resources, technical assistance, support directly to those small business owners. This is where I'm going to give a plug for my website. So you go to rosen.senate.gov, there's two portals. One that says COVID-19. There's somewhere between 10 and 20 different links, things for veterans benefits, unemployment insurance, if you have a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac mortgage, our health departments, frequently asked questions, it's all right there. And then I'm also the only member in the federal delegation to sit on the Small Business Entrepreneurship Committee. We've developed a small business portal there. Again, we're updating it daily if we have to. Frequently asked questions, all the links to every resource that we can provide for Nevada's small business. I also want to mention that last week I was proud and humbled to be appointed to the bicameral bipartisan task force from the White House. It is the Opening Up America Again Congressional Task Force. One of my first jobs on that is going to be to pull the Nevada delegation together. There's just 6 of us. We have regular meetings, trying to pull together with them what they're hearing on the ground. We're going to be speaking with the governor, our elected officials up and down the state, because I can be that voice for Nevada. We're going to put together lists of questions, concerns, and things that we want moving forward. That's what I plan to do there. And we know that Nevada is going to be one of the nation's most hardest hit economies just because of our footprint, our reliance on tourism and hospitality. We'll be hit especially hard because of that, and we have to do whatever we can to get to a point where we can safely reopen our economy. But in order to do that, first we have to build up our healthcare capabilities. That means effectively increasing our nation's and our states, each and every one of our states, our testing capabilities to find out if you have active COVID, as we develop those serum, those antibody tests, to find out if you've had it and have the antibodies and what does that mean, to fund research into therapeutics to lessen the severity of the symptoms of COVID, and on our pathway to eventual vaccine. So this is going to provide, we need to provide funding, protection, training for our healthcare workers, and frankly for everyone who's going to be going back to work eventually. And so we want to be sure that all those plans to reopen are in compliance with guidelines provided by medical experts, again, partnering with our state and local government officials. I want to tell you, too, that my team and I were working around the clock to help Nevada small business owners. They need so many resources to weather this storm. I'm going to continue, again, work with the governor, federal delegation. We've worked with the mayors across the state, our county commissioners, 17 counties across the state, as well as Treasury, SBA. We're going to do whatever we can to be sure that our economy is ready to bounce back when the time is right. And Senator Cortez Masto and I, we have called on the Vice President to direct Health and Human Services and FEMA in this regard to conduct a national inventory of all of the COVID-19 diagnostic test supply. We want them to publicly release the data on the testing results, provide a detailed plan and timeline for addressing future shortages as we go further into this pandemic and what we need to do. And they need to address the gaps. This has to happen at a national level so that states aren't competing against themselves, and that we have a plan to be sure that our entire nation, each and every one of our states that we know and love, our homes are covered, and our entire nation has planned moving forward. We're also both supporting the Coronavirus Community Relief Act. That legislation is going to provide $250 billion in new stabilization funds to cities and counties with populations under 500,000. They're struggling to respond. In Nevada, we only have one city that is larger than 500,000. It's the city of Las Vegas. So for states like ours that may have many cities, but they're not all large, we want to be sure that everybody has their piece of the pot so that they can move forward in the smart, effective ways for them as well. Of course, like everyone knows, yesterday we passed that COVID 3.5, if you will. That package is supposed to, I think, have a vote in the House tomorrow, if I'm hearing that right. That package is nearly $500 billion of additional help to small businesses, to hospitals, healthcare providers. It's about another a little bit over $300 billion in new Paycheck Protection Program funding. It's going to have specific funding for small lenders, for community development financial institutions. These are going to help our minority-owned businesses, our rural businesses, women-owned businesses. It was very important that we do that. There's more money in there for the SBA's, what they call the EIDL loans, economic injury disaster loan. There's money in there for that. There's also money in there for the grants under the Economic Injury Disaster Grant Program, about $10 billion for that. There's more funding, of course, healthcare. This is hitting people, hitting their families. It does not discriminate, COVID. It doesn't care whether you're young or old, rural or urban. It doesn't make any difference. It's an equal opportunity virus. And so we have to be sure we're putting everything we can into that. And of course, we're constantly communicating with our constituents. Just a few weeks ago, I think my emails were up to about 14,000 a week. We are literally working around the clock 7 days a week to respond by phone, by email. That's why we're updating our website with all the FAQs that people are asking us, trying to be sure that we get help where it is needed. Another thing that we've done is put our website also up in Spanish. And then we also have some of our information in a few other languages, Chinese, Vietnamese, Thai, and Tagalog. That way we don't want language to be a barrier for anyone to get assistance. And so lots of us to think about. And speaking of foreign languages, we have a vibrant immigrant community here. So Senator Cortez Masto and I, we sent a letter to the president asking for immediate reauthorization of immediate continuation, of the work authorization for our DACA and TPS recipients, any other immigrants impacted by COVID. We need to be able just to continue as we're doing now. Other vulnerable populations are seniors. Yesterday, Senator Cortez Masto and I participated in a teletown hall with AARP, seniors up and down the state, talking about how they get their Social Security relief, what's in Medicare for them, telemedicine, telehealth, telling them how to avoid scams. People are trying to scam people out of their stimulus checks, and that was a very good call. And so what I want you to know is, just like I've done since I went to Congress, Nevada is my number one worry. I'm going to continue to fight to protect the lives and the livelihood of all Nevadans, wherever they live. It doesn't matter. This is so important to me. We're going to be doing everything we can and representing Nevada's priorities and every platform that's available to me. So I just, again, as a quick update. I'm going to turn it back over to Ivana to take your questions and moderate us in this new website and this new video conferencing world. So thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, we're going to take a question from Jeff Gillen with Channel 3. Jeff, you're able to now unmute your phone so that you can ask the Senator a question. Jeff?
Are you there, Jeff?
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, now I hear you. Yes.
Okay, great. I'm sorry to mess up back here.
Now technology is it's a new world. We're all getting used to doing this.
It is. I'll make it real quick because I know you're busy. You know, you probably saw the well, frankly, the outrage that some large corporations kind of elbowed to the front of the line on the previous PPP. What is in this bill to prevent like major corporations, you know, you saw like Shake Shack or some of the other big restaurant chains get involved and kind of elbow out the small businesses? Any protections in this to make sure that that can't happen?
Well, you know what? This was a little bit egregious. The intent of Congress was to help those smaller businesses. Large corporations have different kind of lending, access to capital markets. It's very different. So in this bill, we specifically took $30 billion in that PPP program. We earmarked it, if you will, for our CDFIs, our community development financial institutions, our minority development institutions, our community banks, our credit unions, so that those groups they're the backbone of what funds our minorities, our underserved areas, our rural areas, our women-owned businesses, and we wanted to be sure we put those guardrails on. So that's what we did this time.
Thank you, Jeff. Next question will be from Dennis with Channel 8. One moment, Dennis. I'm going to unmute your line.
Hi, Dennis.
And you should be able to ask a question now. Dennis? Okay, we'll move on to the next question then. One moment. I have Channel 4 on the line. One moment, I'm going to unmute your line.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now.
Okay, I have, my name is Haley with Channel 4 in Reno. I have two questions. One was on you and Senator Masto asking VP Pence to take the inventory of the testing and things like that. How do you think this is important specifically for Nevada and, of course, the whole country?
Well, I think that in this crisis, like I said, COVID-19 doesn't pick winners and losers. It doesn't care. It's an equal opportunity virus, if you will, equal opportunity devastator, killer in many cases. So we have to have, as a national response, one that can help us distribute equitably across the states. Now, Nevada, we're a large state in our size, but not in our population. And so we have to be sure that every state, whether you're small in population or large in population, you get the resources that you need. That's why a national response, like invoking the Defense Production Act, asking the Vice President to do these things in a national way, it helps our companies also, who in many times, regular times, they compete against each other for business. Well, that isn't this time. This is the time for us to come together in unity to be sure that we protect the lives of all of our American citizens, everybody who's living here in America. And that's the value of doing that. There are people at FEMA, there are people in our military, they are trained, they are experts in understanding the logistics of moving things around the country, whether it's by plane or truck or train. They can devise the formulas, they can work with our major companies to get supplies manufactured and then distribute them where they're needed now, and then plan for the future, because we may see a future spike in disease from this, or we might have some other things that come up. And so we need to be proactive. That's what a national response That's what it's going to be able to do for us, not just in Nevada, but across the country. I think it will make people feel a lot better personally if they know that there's a plan in place that's going to protect all Americans.
Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, we're going to go now on to Jason with KTVN.
Hi, Jason.
Jason, you should be unmuted.
I don't hear him.
I don't know that. Okay, one moment. Jason, are you there? Okay, well, you can always raise your hand in the chat if you're ready to ask a question, and I'll come back to you later. Okay, we're going to now move on to Nick with Mountain West Bureau. 1 second. Okay, Nick, you should be able to ask
Hi, Senator
now.
Rosen. My name's Noah Glick, actually, with the Mountain West News Bureau. Thank you so much for taking my question. I actually have 2 questions, if I may. You and Senator Cortez Masto sent a letter earlier this month to Secretary Bernhardt in Interior asking to suspend any new non-emergency response-related rulemaking and public comment periods. As far as I can tell, public comment is not being extended or suspended, and some mining permits are still going through. I'm just curious to know, have you heard back from Bernhardt or Interior on that? And do you think mining companies should continue to operate while Nevada is in a state of emergency?
Well, we're particularly concerned about things going forward in this time when people aren't able to comment. If they're controversial, there's sometimes when we might have to move money around in certain municipalities in order to respond. We might take it from a capital project in the city of Henderson to respond to the COVID virus, let's say, for example. So we have to be able to have some flexibility. And so as far as that goes, we need to do that, but we also need to have our full eyes on this pandemic right now. Our immediate needs are flattening the curve, being sure that we do everything that we can in Nevada to keep our cases down and be prepared for anything in the future. And also because of our footprint up and down the state, with the amount of tourism we have, more than 50 million people come to every corner of Nevada for outdoor recreation, for skiing, for boating, for gambling, for going to spas, or shows, or world-class restaurants. We know what our economy is. We need to be sure that every person in business is also at the table with the governor on his recovery teams as we build a plan to come back in a safe manner. And so I would hope that our mining communities, as well as our gaming, all of our major business leaders come and have a seat at the table in that and put their attention right now into that aspect of our recovery.
Thank you so much, Noah. Sorry about that earlier. I combined your first name and last name. Okay, I'm going to go back to Haley with KRNV. I believe she had a follow-up question.
Okay.
Yes, I do have another question. So there's a lot of talk, of course, about small businesses because that's the backbone of Nevada, but there are also a lot of small casinos that are having trouble getting federal small business loans because of, their revenue coming from gaming. Is there any discussion taking place that you know of to get more funding for small casinos or any help for them?
Well, I can tell you there's a whole lot more than discussion because I have taken the lead on that with everyone else in the delegation, because it seems to me that the Small Business Administration is arbitrarily picking winners and losers. There's a decades-old rule about receiving a gaming revenue, and if you receive a third of your money from gaming revenue, that you wouldn't qualify for certain small business loans. It's from the 1990s. It's antiquated. It's no reason for it to be in there. It wasn't Congress's intent to exclude any businesses from getting economic disaster relief, pandemic disaster relief, whatever the size of their company. I've had multiple conversations with Administrator of the SBA, Javita Carranza, with Treasury. I've been calling everyone that I can about it. I'm working through my Small Business Committee with Senator Rubio on this and others. He's the chairman of our committee, and our ranking member, Ben Cardin. And so I am just continuing to bang the drum on that. We want that fully rescinded so that the large portion of our gaming companies, the restaurants, the bars, the convenience stores, the truck stops up and down the state. We will be devastated if they don't remove that restriction. I will fight tooth and nail to have that removed. I believe that the discussions are going, they're very productive, they're going well, and I hope to hear something in the next few days.
Thank you for that, Haley. Okay, next we're going to go with John Sadler with the Las Vegas Sun. John, you're on.
Hi, Senator. Can you hear me?
Yep. Hi, John.
Hi. Thanks for doing this. I had a question about the statement you sent out earlier today about cannabis-based small businesses. I know that there's been some issues with enrolling state legalized marijuana businesses into some federal regulations. Is there an appetite in Congress to roll these businesses into the SBA programs?
Well, I think what we have to, it just as it related to gaming revenue, right now, COVID is an equal opportunity destroyer. The intent of Congress was to help all of our businesses. Now, in Nevada, there are many other states that have legal marijuana, legal medical marijuana. I feel that if you're operating legally within the laws of the state, you're paying taxes, you're doing business, you have employees, you're providing a service, then you should have access to these disaster relief loans. And so that's why we, with Senator Wyden, we sent a letter through finance trying to get relief again for our cannabis industry. I think it's very important. They are an economic engine. They have become one since marijuana has been legalized here in the state. I see that it's continue to keep growing and contributing to our economy, just as gaming does, mining does. We have lots of high tech coming up in northern Nevada, and we're continuing to grow and build our state and diversify. So I think that we cannot pick winners and losers with COVID-19. We have to support all of our businesses.
Thank you so much, John. Okay, next we're going to go with Christian Vela with La Pulga. Christian?
Hi, yes, Senator Rosen. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Okay, my question had to do with immigrant families. Is there going to be any federal help for immigrant families here, from the federal government?
Well, we have, we're trying to be sure that if you pay taxes and you have filed a tax return with your ITN number for 2018, or if you've done it already for 2019, you'll receive those stimulus checks. That's $1,200 if you make less than $75,000 for an individual, or $2,400, $150,000 for a family, and $500 for every dependent child, I think, under the age of 17. So that was one thing that we're trying to do to be sure that everyone gets protected there. Of course, Senator Cortez Masto and I sent a letter to immediately extend the work authorization for our DACA recipients, our TPS recipients, and the other immigrants that might be affected by COVID. We want to be sure that everything keeps moving and that everyone gets the support they need to keep our country secure and ready to bounce back as we continue the fight against COVID.
Thank you so much, Christian. Okay, next we're going to go with Gary Martin from the Review Journal. One moment, Gary. Okay,
Hello,
you're on.
Senator.
Hey, Gary, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having this. And thanks for providing some time for us. A couple things back on the small casinos.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you have legislation, and aren't you trying to get a legislative fix? And what's the chances that that gets into the next bill that gets written, relief bill? And why wasn't it included in interim bill?
Well, we do have prescriptive language that I will fight to be put in the fourth package. I don't think there's any reason to think it wouldn't be. I was hoping for guidance from Treasury and the SBA before that. This is just arbitrary for what they set up as their regulations and guidelines, so they can just remove it with a guidance comment. And so I was hoping to have that first and then try to provide prescriptive language going forward. The 3.5 bill, of course, we realized when we passed the CARES Act, that few $1 trillion, everything has to happen so fast because COVID is happening to us so quickly. So you think that you give all this money, you put it out there, and then you realize that the needs are so much greater, or sometimes even more expanded than you initially thought. So the 3.5 package, we wanted to get that out as quickly as possible with funds for the paycheck protection program, with the idle funds, with all of those other things, a little bit more help for testing and test supplies and PPE. So we put that through quickly. Now, as we begin to think about what goes in the fourth package, I have that prescriptive language. I'm going to try to fight for a legislative fix and hope that gets in there. I'm going to work with senators across the country that also have gaming in their state. There's tribal gaming. There's gaming in other states all across the country. And they are our natural allies here. And we're going to fight to put that in.
Thank you, Gary. We're going to take a couple more questions, and then we're going to be wrapping up. So we're going to go next with Humberto Sanchez with the Nevada Independent. Humberto?
Humberto,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, good. Hi, Senator. How are you?
I'm hanging in there.
So I wanted to get your reaction today. Mayor Goodman was on CNN today talking about she wants to open up all the casinos and get people back to work. And I know that you want to weigh that against safety issues, and she seems to be on the other side of the of that issue with you. Could you talk about her comments a little bit?
Well, what I want to say is I think the governor has done a great job. First of all, one of the reasons that Nevada has a lower number of cases, and of course, no death, any death is too many, but lower in comparison number of fatalities due to COVID, is because of his early and aggressive action to shut down those 100,000 hotel rooms plus in Las Vegas and, of course, up and down the state. I think that saved lives. He's done a very good job putting together task force with business leaders, our medical community, working with the federal delegation, all of our mayors. His team, they've been working around the clock. And so what we have to do going forward is that we have to have a plan, one that relies, on the medical guidelines. CDC's put forth some guidelines. They're from the White House about what we should consider as benchmarks before we can open. Those are important as general guidelines. And then, of course, you look at that maybe by county, depending, every state is different how they're made. But for us, maybe a rural county can open up quicker than we can on the Las Vegas Strip. And so what I want to say is that I think the most important thing we can do is to work together going forward. We need to protect our lives and our livelihoods. But if we don't do that in a smart and thoughtful way, in this progressive way, that if we see something that's not right, that we can pull it back or modify or change it as we go forward. The cost is too great. If it's your mother, your grandmother, God forbid your child, the cost is too great. It doesn't mean that we don't open, but I think it means that we make a plan, we work the plan, we keep analyzing and adjusting as we go, because Nevada will be ready to bounce back. And I think if we can do it in a smart and safe way, Las Vegas is going to be what it was just it seems like a lifetime ago, but just 2 months ago. And that's what I want to look forward to. I understand that people are anxious to go back to work, but we need to be smart about it.
Thank you so much, Humberto. Okay, we're going to go back to KTVN one last time to see if there's anyone there that wants to ask a quick question, and then we'll be wrapping up from there. Okay, Jason, I have you unmuted if you are available to ask a question.
I don't hear him.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you again for taking the time to join us. If you have any questions, please feel free to follow up with me directly, and we'll make sure to circle back with you. Thank you again, Senator.
Be safe and well out there, everyone, please.